Good morning.
Good morning.
How's it going, Shelby?
It's going great.
Welcome to Can't Shovel Hurricanes. I'm so excited to have you on. I've been trying to get you on for a while. You're a tough cookie to actually track down because you're a busy lady. But we're going to touch on a lot of things today. I really want to get your perspective on the travel scene specific to cruising, because a lot of the listeners are either families with young kids looking for how do we get the best deals. You get a lot of people that are singles that are, thinking about Florida, and Florida is synonymous with the cruising lifestyle.
It sure is. It's the cruise capital of the world.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay.
Cruise
and they
capital.
just built another terminal, I believe, for Disney cruises or something.
Yeah,
like
they're
that.
always building terminals, but Disney's putting some money into their game again.
Really?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you, the Disney cruises sounds a lot more attractive to me and my family because everyone tells us that going to Disney, it's in itself is an amazing experience for the kids, is a financially prohibitive experience for the families. And really, you don't have much fun at it except, watching your kids have pure enjoyment. But I hear it's like a crazy, crazy amount of money. And if you went on a cruise, you'd get way more value out of it. Is that true?
Well, that's a great question. So I'll just let you know, I've been in travel for 20 years. I worked on cruise ships for 8 years. And then I was a cruise director for the biggest singles travel company in the world for over a decade. And now we own our own travel agency. So I have a lot of experience in travel. In my opinion, and I always say, I'll give you my opinion just like I would give a friend, but you might have a different experience and that's fine. Disney, I've always felt personally is pretty overrated, to be quite honest with you. I do. I think it's overrated. I definitely think you should go when you live in Florida. It's a great thing to do, but it is pretty overrated. It's one of the reasons that I'm in travel, and because we get so many good discounts. I've never paid to go to Disney.
Really?
Yeah. But I've gone and I'm always like, holy crap, is it expensive?
Yeah.
It really is, especially for people with more than one kid. I don't usually recommend bringing kids to Disney until they're at least 7, because if they're not going to remember it, it is not worth it. And they are just as happy going to one of our little festivals around town as they are to Disney. They don't, like, under 7, I don't really believe that they need Disney.
It's amazing you said that, because that's almost the exact conversation I had with my wife. So I have a 7-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old. And I'm like, they're not going to remember.
No, they're not.
Right?
Even my son, we took him when he was 7. And a funny story about 7. So he's 7 years old. We were actually living in Toronto at that time. Joel was still working up there.
Okay.
So this is 7 years ago. Yeah. Right. I'm Canadian American. I had to import my husband. You have to import the good ones. And anyway, we still have a lot of ties out there. So 7 years ago, I had a place here, but we were living there. And for February, we're like, screw this. We're coming back to Florida and staying in the condo. So he was only in 2nd grade, right? So we were like, we're just taking him out. Like, what the hell is he going to miss, right? So we take him out of school for the month of February. We drive from Toronto to Florida. And on the way, we go to Disney. For a couple of days, we go on a cruise. We were hosting a 3-night cruise. We went to like some of these outside go-kart racing thing. And we did something else spectacular that I can't remember besides going to the beach. And at the end of February, I was like, honey, what did you enjoy most about your month here, And Christian says, he thinks about it and he goes, playing iPhone with Dakota. And I was like, you just stabbed me in the heart. Like, seriously. I'm like, Disney didn't even make the grade. He's like, oh, that was fun too. Oh, we went to Club Med. That was the other thing. I'm like, Club Med? You didn't enjoy Club Med for that was like fun. Like, we did everything. Oh yeah, I liked that too. And I was like, but playing the iPhone with Dakota was the first thing after. God. So just to put it in perspective to where they're coming from, don't get me wrong. Of course we had fun. But we laugh when we go to Disney. When he was 7, now he was pretty well behaved in the sense of like, we could still strike him. So we could tell him, no, stop it, or threaten him. No, I'm kind of kidding there. But
I get what you're saying.
He was good. He wasn't throwing temper tantrums or anything like that. But we watched everybody else. I mean, we watched several families literally just having tantrums. It's hot. Yes. There's lines. It's exhausting. They weren't serving alcohol at Disney at this point. I was like, this is crazy.
So I'll tell you, what you're saying is actually one of my biggest fears from that stuff. And obviously, we were talking from a position of privilege, being able to go to a place like that. But I've heard, I don't know whether they're wild exaggerations, but they've been consistently wild from talking to people that have gone, and they've done like this VIP package where somebody waits in the line for you and they take care of all that. And they're saying something like it's $700 an hour and you have to hire them for the entire day. You split it amongst a bunch of families.
Take my travel agent course.
So what I'd said to my wife, I'm like, look at the calculation, and we can go on like a super duper vacation, which we did right before we moved to Florida. We went to Dominican for a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
2 weeks. It was amazing. It cost me half for double the time, and the kids had the best time.
Yeah.
As did we.
Where did you go in Dominican?
I think it was Splash Punta Cana. It was a kids resort.
Oh, fun.
It had
I haven't heard of that one.
It had all kinds of like water parks and all kinds of stuff like that. It was really, and the water was kind of shallow on the beach side.
So you could sort of walk in, wade in. That's so nice. Club Med has a Punta Cana one as well, which I would highly recommend for kids and adults because they have an adult section.
So you don't just deal with cruising, you deal with the travel.
All travel, yeah.
Oh,
we book all travel, and we don't, we do really just don't have time to like market better, but we do all travel, and we do a travel agent training program as well. Travelfun.biz, B-I-Z, where your fun is our biz.
So who are you looking for in that travel agent training program?
I really don't have any, as far as basics, I don't care what they're into, whether they're into adult travel, singles travel, family travel, that's fine. But to be in the travel business, number one, you have to love travel, because the perk of being a travel agent is really the discounts that you're going to get in addition to your sales and the commissions. But it's got to be someone that is organized. I mean, you have to be able to not just get people excited about traveling with you. You really have to be organized because travel is very messy. One of the best things about being in travel right now is since COVID killed so much, 80,000 travel agents quit. Wow. Or retired. Yeah, they couldn't make it. We made it through by, I don't even know, just God's will, but we made it through, and that says a lot. We're on track for I think it's our first real year, in my opinion, because since COVID really took everything out, no one was really starting to travel until this year is when everything's ramped back up and all the restrictions have been lifted for the most part.
So what you're saying is like, I'm assuming that the overwhelming majority of your client base isn't necessarily Floridian because they weren't locked down for that
Not
long,
at all.
right?
Yeah.
So they're coming from other parts of the world. Where are most of your people booking travel from?
Oh, just anywhere in North America. Usually it's the Northeast is kind of our network is mostly Northeast, but I have travel agents from Colorado. I have travel agents from New Mexico. I happen to have a big Northeast perspective because I'm from Massachusetts. Right. And of course we have a lot of Canadian connections, but I worked on ships. So my connections are really vast, all over the place. But as far as where they're from, I would say everybody in the United States, but mostly the Northeast is the bigger travelers, All
right. Post-COVID, what would you say is the largest segment or demographic of people booking travel right now? Is it singles? Is it families? Is it retirees? What would you say is there one that stands out more than the rest?
Well, the singles for sure.
Really?
Yeah, they're just like, if you think about how hard it was to be locked down with a family, it's even worse by yourself. They were really isolated, these singles. Super isolated. They couldn't date. They couldn't have friends. It was just ridiculous. So I think that they suffered pretty hard.
So talk me to what a singles cruise kind of looks like.
Okay. We call it single sailings.
Okay.
And basically, this is mostly 40s plus. I tell people, we do have some in their 30s, but none in their 20s. And people in their 20s don't really need to go out dating. They just walk out the door. Or swipe
Women,
right.
Probably. Yeah, swipe right.
Yeah, Kristen agrees.
He's doing it as we speak right now. I think he's using my phone for the profile too. I'm going to get in trouble.
Oh, that's cute. It's usually single professionals that your friends are either married or broke. That's usually the story. And you still want to travel, but you don't want to be like by yourself. And I know there's like a segment of all this like fascinating, like I went by myself here. And I'm like, really? You want to be by yourself for a whole week? Like with families and couples around? And like, it's a little awkward,
Yeah, for sure.
Like, and
I don't know who would want to do that.
You know, there's always a few, and they glamorize it so much. But honestly, I can almost say I've experienced that, because when I was working on cruise ships, especially your first couple about weeks or a month into your contract, everybody's working. You're the new girl, and when I didn't know anybody yet, when I hadn't had some time on the ships, you're really by yourself. I mean, you're by yourself. You don't know anyone. They all have their little friends. You have very limited time off. So, they have their little cliques that they're dealing with. So I'm traveling by myself. I mean, I'm going to get off the ship, of course, at every opportunity, but I'm by myself.
What a learning experience.
Yeah. And I've always been incredibly independent, but it's like sad when you see something really cool and you're completely by yourself. You're like, okay, that was nice the first time, maybe the second, but the third and fourth, you want to like rub elbows with someone and be like, wow, isn't that cool?
Right.
But you don't know anyone. And it's like, it's really lonely. And I mean, I like my alone time, but like, I think the single sailings are so great because you get to have the opportunity to be alone when you want to, but then you have a whole group of people if you want to hang out with them too, and you have people to have dinner with, and you have cocktail parties and theme nights and games and fun stuff.
Are people a lot more open on these cruises because they're there with that purpose? I'm single, you're single, let's talk.
Yeah, so I would say, by the way, I'm sorry, I'm a little chilly, so I don't mean to move around.
This is why I'm wearing.
Yeah, I see your sweatshirt. That was smart. That was smart. Christian, grab me your jacket. So the singles are not going, it's not a sex fest is what most people think it is.
It's kind of in the back of my mind.
They always think it's like some sort of frat party, like it's people in their 20s running around naked. And we do host one cruise a year that's a little wild, tops optional at the pool, European style. That one is wild, probably more like what you're envisioning. But that's...
Which one is that? Let me just write that down.
That's our Temptations cruise. It's on in February, once a year. But most of them are just regular cruises, and it's regular people. And I would say most of them are just going because they don't want to go alone. They'd like to meet some other friends that like to travel. And that's a big thing that is missing with people when you're a professional and you're busy and you're working all those crazy hours and you have your little nucleus and you've already kind of dated in your pool and you're like, nothing's working out. You still want to meet people that love to travel, that have the means to travel.
Right. So that's what I was going to say. I mean, cruising in itself is not a cheap proposition by any stretch. And I'm assuming that the people that are going on these cruises, and stop me if I'm wrong, are in a socioeconomic status that is, average or slightly above.
Well, yeah, I would say that's fairly fair. But I will tell you, I think cruising is probably the least expensive vacation experience you can do.
Oh, you're going to have to elaborate on that, because the cruise ship I just went to with my kids, everything was a top up and a top up. Yeah,
the extra add-ons, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still think if you would compare it to like going to a hotel, like in the area, it would be a better value. But maybe, you have to book with us so we can get you the best deal.
So that's where I actually want to go with this, because one of the reasons we went on a cruise when we were here, and we went in December, we were only here for a couple of months at that time. We came here in July officially.
Okay.
And it was like Floridian's cruise. You get these last minute deals. You get these incredible deals. It's so much fun. The kids will love it. And I'm like, when in Rome,
right,
we did it. And it was not disappointing by any stretch. It was great.
What time of year did you go?
December. We went right around Christmas.
That's the most expensive time of the year to go.
Right. Obviously.
I said
kids are off school.
Yeah. Well, that's the other thing. Every year people call me up and they're like, Shelby, can you give me a deal for New Year's? I'm like, no, there are no deals. There's no deals for New Year's and Christmas. Never. Not even for me. So
if I were to call you and say, Shelby, look, we've got a little bit of an opening between this and this day. My kids are still young enough that if they miss a day or two of school.
Right. Well, that's exactly what I was going to say, is that if you have kids that are that young, I mean, honestly, you said 7 is your oldest?
7, 5, and 4.
So nothing is going to happen if they take them out of school, except for you got to give blood to the teacher.
No, I'll probably make more memories spending time with them that will add more value than a day or two of school. Now, I'm not condoning missing school.
I am.
I pay a lot of money for a private
know, but
school.
at the end of the day, like for 1 week, I mean, it's really not a big deal at 7. The only time, it's just high school, that this is the first year that I'm like considerate of what time frame spring break is. But I would say until high school, everything you can do to cruise outside of the times off that kids have, then you're going to get a way better deal.
Interesting.
Yeah. And the best time, if you want to know,
I do.
The actual cheapest time to sail ever for and do any vacation is between Thanksgiving and the week before Christmas. So that little box is always the cheapest time because nobody wants to travel after Thanksgiving and before Christmas. So if you can figure out a way to just say, screw it, I'm taking off work. The kids are getting out of school. They're not going to miss much anyway because nobody's doing much between those weeks anyway, like anything important because they know they're going to stop, That's the very inexpensive time to travel around the board.
So when I was listening to your podcast, Cruise Director, I heard, a bit of an array. You get the singles cruises, you get some of these, quasi sex fest, and then, but as a family, which cruise would you say isn't the cheapest but offers the most value? I'm not looking to pay bottom dollar. I don't mind spending a little bit more, but getting way more value. It's always about value to us, and then convenience with kids. What cruise would you suggest for us?
So I always start at the bottom. Starting at the bottom, now we're here. You can't beat the value with a stick for Carnival. However, and for people with a lot of kids, I totally get it. But you are going to mostly be with other people that are at that bottom tier, like looking for the cheapest. And the cheapest isn't always the best, but the value for Carnival is unbeatable. You
Why?
Cannot beat it. Well, they're just charging so little. I mean, they really are. I don't want to say the Walmart of cruising because that's such a put down. But they have some new ships like the Mardi Gras. If you go on the Mardi Gras, you'll be impressed and it will be the best value you can get. But some of the Carnival cruises, it's the people that you're surrounding yourself with that get a little bit ridiculous. While it's cheaper, you do pay with your time because there's more lines, because there's more people, because it's cheaper. So everyone wants to go. Way more kids. I mean, because obviously when you have more than one kid, you're paying per person and it's a lot, but Carnival has the best value, but hands down. The next tier up would be NCL and RCL, which you went on Royal. But they are significantly more expensive, but you're getting a better quality of food, no doubt.
Okay.
You're getting a better quality of passengers, because you might just be thinking you're just going for your family, but there's a lot of networking opportunities when you're on.
I never thought about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, these are great ways to meet people that you're going to exchange business cards with and get on social media. And I've made it my business. I'm in social media as well, to connect purposefully, but obviously organically first. But my mind's always on, well, I'm going to get you on my page. We're going to connect after the cruise. And which is, I know it's a little bit, it might sound a little conniving, but I'm a businesswoman and we have to think business wise.
Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, for some reason, I think over the last couple of years, people have thought about making money as an evil venture.
Right. I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. That's funny you say that. I'm always like, why do people think I should work for free? I don't understand that.
It makes no sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
I can tell you that just on our move here, it was from a business perspective, we have to reestablish. It's another location for my wife's business. It's certainly for me, for my real estate team, it's been a massive leap because we saw that there's such a demand between people specifically out of Toronto looking to buy in South Florida. And that demand just done this, it's skyrocketed.
I bet.
And we are reestablishing essentially new businesses and nobody works for free. And there's a major difference in the way Canadians and Americans approach business.
How do you feel specifically?
Well, capitalism is at the forefront in South Florida and Florida in general. Day-to-day expenses are higher here than they are in Toronto across the board.
In Boca, yes.
Yeah, so I hear a lot of that. But then I've gone further south. I've gone to Sunny Isles. I've gone to Miami. I've gone to South Beach. You go to West Palm.
Gotta go north.
West Palm, in
Lake Worth.
Yeah. So yeah. I mean, for us, the anchor was the schooling, which is the most important part of things. But you're a transplant. You've moved. You moved from Canada. You moved into the States.
Right. I lived in Massachusetts, they call it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find Florida to be incredibly reasonably priced up until a couple years back, 2 years ago. Things have gotten a lot more expensive, but I don't know. I find Florida to be.
But from a tax perspective, I mean, this is a much better, like this is a haven compared to Canada as a whole, from a tax perspective.
Absolutely.
Like, I think on average, you'd probably net about 25% more of your income leave. And so, yeah, you're spending it on other durable goods here. And maybe, I don't want to say it a carte blanche statement that everything is more expensive. But some things are, like schooling is more expensive. That's for sure.
Right. That is for sure. You got to get, so there are some good schools in Boca specifically that are public, not private. And I can speak to that because I'm part of the Boca Chamber, which I highly recommend. You got to introduce me to your wife.
I will. She's a part of the Boca Chamber.
Yeah. And they just got a podcast here. They're starting.
Really?
Yes.
In this studio?
Yes, that's correct.
Cool.
Yeah. Yay, Boca Chamber. So love them. I was never about any chambers, and I've lived a lot of places. And I always felt when I went to these chamber events, it was like everyone's selling, nobody's buying, and I don't have time for all that crap. So I was I wasn't forced, but I was coerced because my son was part of the Young Entrepreneurs Academy. And that was through the Golden Bell Education Foundation, which is through the Boca Chamber. And the reason it's important to understand these levels is because the Boca Chamber is why Boca is what it is today. And I'll tell you why. It's because they had such foresight. The first thing they built was the schools. And the Golden Bell Education Foundation actually has grants every year. They give about $100,000 or more to individual teachers in the public school systems in Boca in order for them to do the stuff that they really need to do and keep these schools A-rated.
That's amazing.
It is.
I had no idea.
And it was done with the mindset, very intentfully, that if the schools are good, the people like you will come.
Right.
So there are amazing public schools in this area, and you just have to get in the right zoning for them. And it's a phenomenal chamber to be in because these are really hardworking people doing their best to be their best, as I say. Like when I got to the Boca Chamber, I was like, oh my God, these are my people. But I got there really oddly because my son, they knew me from my son, and then they needed someone to do a benefit of a Battle of the Bands. And you should look into this because this is great. Battle of the Bands is a fundraiser for the Golden Bell Education Foundation through the Boca Chamber. And
I actually have a Golden Bell sticker on my fridge.
Oh my gosh.
That says Boca. My wife brought it home. Now you're talking about it. I'm like, I look at it every time I go to eat.
They are so amazing. Chuck and Troy is the president. Chuck is the president of Golden Bell, and
I should have him on the podcast.
You should. Yeah, you should. It's they are really pillars of the community, and they are why the schooling system is good, and you can get free school that is very, very good here. But I do agree, if you do private school, it's outrageous. I mean,
especially now with the competition.
Yes.
And it's not only a function of whether you can afford it, it's whether you can get in.
Yeah.
Right. And I think now in my kids' school, they're saying it's like a 6-to-1 ratio of applicants to
wow. Which
spot.
school is that?
She's Donna Klein.
I don't know that one.
In West Boca. And then I have a couple of colleagues that go to St. Andrews, Pinecrest.
Well, St. Andrews is where the Young Entrepreneurs Academy is, by the way. Is that
right?
Yeah.
So a lot of the people that have moved here have transplanted from different parts of the world. Overwhelming majority come from, it's like a tie, I think, between California and New York.
I don't think it's a tie. It's New York.
Is it?
Yeah.
Maybe. I think newbies are the Californians, like the fresh ones, but there's way more New Yorkers here. Yeah. That I'll agree with. But I'm talking about the shift. Doesn't matter.
Maybe you're right about the shift. I don't know about that.
And it is really,
I'd want to leave California too.
You know what's amazing? Is that you can, in 3 seconds, conversation with someone who's moved here, figure out whether they're from New York or anywhere else in the United States.
Yes.
Like the New Yorkers are very distinct people, not only in accent, but just their demeanor.
Yeah.
And I was told, from a business perspective, especially in Boca, they call it the Boca Shuffle. You gotta kind of figure out who your people are and how you're going to conduct yourself on the business end of things. And
I agree.
It's a learning experience.
It is. I mean, it's New York. So I'm from Mass, so I'm very familiar with New York. And I always say that Long Island must be the longest island in the world because I've met more people from Long Island than I have from any other planet. They are a very big mover and shaker people. But I've been around the world working on ships and worked with so many different cultures. And I can say that culturally speaking, everywhere you go, there's a different culture. So Canada has a different culture.
It's a melting pot.
And it is, but there's like ways to act and ways that are acceptable to speak to people. And where I come from is really different than here.
In Mass.
Yes, absolutely. I come from a place where my neighbors came over on their John Deere on Christmas morning with like some peach schnapps already drinking at like 8. And he's like, is Donnie home? And I'm like, it is Christmas morning. Go home. We are respectable. We don't drink till 12. you know? So, like, it's like, that's where I come from. And then New York is like, every time I went to visit New York as a young girl, I was always like, what the hell is wrong with these? They're so mean. Like, why do you speak to people like that? It is like, just, they're even there. Like, oh my God.
Fast paced, go.
Yeah,
like,
they think
everyone's in a rush. The center of the universe. And I've met a lot of amazing New Yorkers.
Yeah,
don't get me wrong.
Me too.
It's just, you can distinctly see a New Yorker. And going back to just from a business perspective, when I talk about capitalism, when you're talking business to people in Canada, there's kind of like this quasi feeling out process and everybody's kind of like flirting at first. Versus here, it's like, get to the point.
Right.
What is it you want to do? What value can you add to me? And what can I add to you? And then you do or you don't, and there's no time being wasted. But money's in the forefront versus in Canada, I feel like it's not discussed. It's kind of like something you avoid because you're trying to make it. It's as if you're trying to steal it from somebody else, but you're just really trying to collude. Versus here, it's like, how much can you make from this? How much more value and
more
service can you add? Yeah. So like even when we're talking about deals, like I'll tell you the minute we're done the podcast, I'm going to find out from you when is the best time for me to travel. You kind of touched on.
Yeah, it's definitely between Thanksgiving and Christmas.
What about these last minute deals I keep hearing about for Floridians?
You hear about that, but I mean, how flexible are you? I mean, the last minute deals are really last minute. They're more for retired people or single people.
But are they that overwhelmingly discounted?
They can be, yes, they certainly can be, but you really have to be insanely flexible.
Give me an example, like pick up and go next day?
Have a go bag. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really is that, is like a week to even a day. Sometimes people have actually gone down to the port with their packed luggage and hoping for no-shows.
No.
Oh, yes, you can do that.
You definitely have to be retired for that. You can't do that with kids.
No, you can't. I don't have last minute deals. I don't do that. I mean, I do travel agent deals, and even those are usually 30 to 60, maybe 90 days out is the best. You can't get deals too much further out than that because usually they give the travel agent deals to when they can't sell the cruise or the resort.
Right.
Excuse me.
Allergy season.
No, it's just talking.
Wild night?
No, definitely not. I was up doing laundry.
Sounds awesome.
It's really awesome. Yeah. So basically the last minute deals, I just don't feel that that's a reality for most people unless you're just retired or single or have such flexibility. But you can get good deals because if the cruise isn't selling, they're obviously going to lower the price. But that's more like 30, 60 days out. I mean, how realistic is it for you and the 3 kids and your wife to know 30 or 60 days out that you're going to have 7 days off?
We would kind of know, but like, I mean, I don't feel
there's a lot of pieces in the puzzle.
Yeah, for sure. And especially with like my son, before I came down here, my son was called out of school because he had a bit of a rash and they just sent him home precautionary. Like anything could happen with kids, right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I have to be able to cancel it and stuff like that. So
you always get insurance.
Oh, yeah. Well,
don't even try to ever travel without insurance anymore. Can I just say that like publicly and if you travel more than 3 weeks a year, you should be having annual insurance to save you a whole bunch of money. Call me.
Look, that's actually, so that's exactly what I wanted to head into. What are best practices for people looking to book vacations that will give them both like, the best time, most value. And then also like, how do you really prepare that way you're ready for just about anything, whether it's insurance or even what do you pack? Like how would you guide a family that's new to cruising, has never done it before to get on a cruise ship? Well,
one of the biggest things is travel insurance. I mean, you're you're just stupid if you don't get it these days. I honest to God, I can't even sugarcoat it anymore. I have seen so many tragedies and so many thousands of dollars lost over people trying to escape out on $100. It's ridiculous.
Really?
Yeah, it's sad.
I might be one of those people.
Don't do it.
Okay.
It is not worth it. They will leave you in port with a freaking broken limb, like a heart attack. Like they're like, see ya, because the ship doesn't want you. And once you're really hurt, if you're really, really hurt or sick or have like a really bad condition, they will just kick you off the ship. and whatever port
and leave you wherever.
Leave you wherever.
And how do you get home?
You don't unless you have travel insurance, or because you can't even get home if there's a serious medical condition, and a broken arm they can handle, but like a broken leg, a little bit different, because you never know if it's a femur. That's like a huge thing, and that happens. People slip, people fall, people are looking up. Accidents happen on ships, and believe me, no one ever thinks it's going to happen to them. But every single cruise, there is a tragedy. Okay,
so we didn't have a tragedy. Our first cruise with the kids. Like, we were on the cruise ship for maybe half an hour. Kids got on the balcony. There's a little lip between that. My son slips over the lip, kind of catches him and hits his lip right on the bed.
Poor baby.
Splits his lip. We have to go to the doctor. He was a trooper. But yeah, stuff happens. I'm one of those people. I can tell you it happened.
Oh yeah, it happens. And what happens when it's serious is that that the ship doesn't want you as a liability. They really can't help you. So they just get you off the ship. Like, as soon as you're in port, and if it's really bad, they'll like go to a different port just to drop you off. If you don't have travel insurance, you can't fly home. There's no airlifting. And I've literally, let's say hypothetically, because you can't talk about these things after they're done, but hypothetically, I've been in situations where I've seen people, major issues, injuries, and because they don't have travel insurance, they're stuck in that country until they're medically fit to fly. So you're talking about not only paying for all your medical bills, because nothing's covered out there, but you're in a third world country in a hospital that you don't want to be in. You don't have any family, especially if it's a singles trip, it's you and just by yourself, right? And then you have to have your family goes there, and then they will not fly you until you're medically fit to fly. And then there's a lot of bull that goes on there, because
sorry, this is what you can say whatever you want on this one.
Because, you end up like having these third world countries, some of them want to keep you there because they want your money. It's really tricky. So
travel insurance, and you're talking about the medical stuff. What about cancellation and stuff?
That's all travel insurance. You don't need to overthink it. You just have to get the travel insurance. There is MedJet Vac. I actually invested in this year for our family, because we're going out to like Europe and stuff like that at some point internationally. If we're not just Florida, when we go out internationally, they will fly us anywhere back to any hospital we want from anywhere in the world. And that was like,
that cost?
I think for me, it was like $500 for the 2 years for the three of us. It was nothing.
Oh, so it's not a material.
Well, I think it's probably double for like regular people, but travel agent discounts.
Fine,
but even so,
bucks.
yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Totally worth it. Totally worth it. And people do not realize, because like you said, accidents happen, but ultimately you want not only accidents. I don't want to have to be forced to stay in a third world country and be at their hospital. That is not cool. So it's serious. And nowadays you are just a number. They do not care.
All right. So travel insurance, what another best practice that you
yearly travel insurance. So I tell people, if you travel more than 3 times a year, and especially if you're over 50, because travel insurance prices are based on age and the amount of cost of the trip, basically. A little bit of residency as well. But those are the 2 big factors. So once you start to get over 50, you really, and 60 and 70, my gosh, they start to really hike up the prices. But the yearly trip insurance that we have is not based on age. So whether it's you or me or a 70-year-old, they're all getting the same price. I don't know why that is, but it is. And you'll save $1 gazillion if you just do the yearly package. But then I would supplement it with the MedJet, just because it only covers a certain amount for medical evacuation.
That's amazing info. I knew nothing about this.
Yeah. And I'm not a real worrywart when it comes to getting hurt or sick, because that's just not what happens to me. But I've seen way too much, and it was like, it's a matter of time.
Yeah. But look, it's like exactly right. Like, it usually won't go bad, but when it goes bad, it goes really
real bad real quick. Yeah. And I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, it's just absurd. Sure. I mean, I have medical insurance on my dog though, too. So maybe
when we moved down here, we had a real issue with that, because they decided to hike up the insurance till when we came across the border. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And they said they had made an error. And we just said, forget it. I'm no longer paying for insurance.
For the dog?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have one that does both North America, all of North America.
Okay. Yeah,
you have to get me on the side on that. But I thought it was funny. We were in Canada one time, and I'm like, how is it that I'm not insured, but my dog is? Like, what is this world coming to?
Okay. So a conversation I recently had with my brother who came to visit was he's in Canada. If my dog is injured, I get them x-rayed, blood work, all that stuff, minutes, paid for it, go boom. Goes, I can't do that. Canada. I got to go see my family doctor, and I got to wait for the family doctor to give me a referral. Then I got to do the blood work. And it's much better to be a dog. It's so much easier from a medical perspective.
No kidding.
Because it's available to you. If you need it,
well, it's the way it should be.
Yeah, well, that's a debate for another. You're not going to get any disagreement out of me by any stretch. Yeah. All right, so insurance is critical.
Yes.
What other best practices? Like, what do you pack, or like, how do you prepare?
I have a packing list. You know, I tell people, number one, packing a perfect. I call it packing the perfect carry-on. You really these days, if you're flying specifically, you have to think about your lost luggage is a real possibility. So basically, I always say I pack a carry-on that I could comfortably be a part of for 3 days and be totally cool and not feel inconvenienced. So I'm talking bathing suit, because you got to think of these things like bathing suit, workout gear, especially for a woman. Bathing suits are not easy. And workout gear is not easy either, because you got the shoes, you know, you have to have your shoes. So pack a carry-on that don't cheap out on the carry-on. Pay the extra money, have your carry-on. You should have it for your documents, your medical stuff, but also for just like a nice little outfit out, but that like kind of transfers into like my pajamas transfer into my workout outfit. But I have enough to like put together a 3-day, everything from working out to going out to a fancy dinner.
Right. Okay. So
and that way you're not uncomfortable, because it really screws up
it's a problem now.
It is. And it really screws up your experience if you don't have luggage, because now you're like in your little, you feel gross.
Yeah. And you've gone on vacation and you brought all this fancy stuff and you want to just relax and stuff like that. What would you say is the best destination to cruise to?
Europe. I love Europe so much. Out of Florida though.
Where in Europe?
The Med. If you haven't been to Europe, the Med is always a good one. You hit a little bit of Greece and mostly Italy, and it's just you can't.
I was just in Sicily.
Oh yeah, how was that?
It was incredible,
isn't it?
Taormina.
Yeah, it's the Med is just, I just love the Med. But out of Florida, it's my opinion is the Southern Caribbean, which is you can do. Actually, that's not out of Florida. That's out of Puerto Rico, but you can do some of the Southern Caribbean. But right now we're going out of Miami and we're doing DR, which is awesome because it's still authentic. It's still real. And it depends what you like. So let me just start with, some people really like the American islands. So the Caribbean, like St. Thomas is is US, first of all, but it's the first of the like American islands that I would call, where they sort of bulldoze everything, put a Margaritaville and a Cozumel, like Senior Frogs and the Diamonds International. And it's like a mall. And that to me is not interesting. I don't get interested.
I get it.
However, most people love that. So it's the majority. So maybe that's your thing. And frankly, as long as you're happy, I'm happy. I couldn't care less. You know, I'm not trying to put my stuff on you, but I like the authentic islands. So I like places like DR, Haiti. I like to see San Juan. I still love because they've really kept old San Juan so beautiful. St. Kitts, Tortola. You can get to Tortola from St. Kitts. Oh my gosh, that is such a cool place with the baths. There's like a volcanic rock. It shot up these gigantic boulders and landed them in the right on the coast of the ocean, and it creates caves, and you could do little like real whirlpools that are just created from the ocean.
Wow.
Oh, it's so amazing.
I've never even heard of these places.
Oh yeah, that's the best. That's the Southern Run. The Southern Run is
it okay to go with kids?
Absolutely.
Really?
Absolutely. Yeah.
All right. We're connecting
for
very,
sure.
Very soon.
I love the, I love that run is the San Juan. It's a 6 ports, 7-day run. And you hit St. Kitts, Antigua, Barbados, and Tortola, and a couple, one other I think I'm missing.
And which cruise ship did?
All of them that really do that run from Florida. Yeah. And then, I'm sorry, from San Juan. And from Florida, you can go to DR. You can go to do a 7-day. They have a run that does DR, Puerto Rico, the Bahamas, and the private islands, which is the one we're doing in just a few weeks. The MSC is worth mentioning. I'm going to give you more information on that once I get back from that cruise, because I haven't been on MSC in about 12 years.
MSC?
Yeah, exactly. It's
what is that?
Mediterranean Shipping Company is what it stands for, but it's a European line. It's the fastest growing cruise line, by far the cheapest as far as entry prices go, and really classy, nice ships. They're starting to do some stuff for kids. So it used to be more adult, but I'll have more information for you in a couple weeks, but that might be the best deal all around. I'm going to let you know because I really don't know yet. I just know from, what I've heard and what I've seen, but they have transformed and they are such a good deal and they're getting more family friendly.
I'm super excited because we've like right now we're taking a little bit of time off and we're going back to Canada as well for Passover. But like we've got 4 or 5 days actually, like come April 4th, the kids are out of school. So if you can lend me something last minute, I'll gladly take it.
But again, April, so March and April are spring break. So that's very expensive.
Pricey.
Yeah. That's where so when the kids are out of school, that's when you don't want to go. Not only that, there's a lot of kids. So it's like crazy, you know? Yeah. So if you can just say, I'm going to take a little extra.
Yeah, I would be open to that because we're so busy since we moved down here because we lack the support network that we had.
Right. I understand that.
And we have to take these pauses just on our own lives. You know, it's funny when you turn off your phone and when you don't have a choice, like when you're out in the water, like you can't answer your phone. It's like, the world doesn't stop somehow, right? Things keep going on.
So my son and I went on a holiday cruise. My husband was out of town. And so we didn't want to spend Christmas like we usually do because, you know, it was like, that'll be sad. So I'm like, let's go on a cruise. So we went on a cruise and I turned my phone. I told my husband, I said, honey, since you're not on the cruise, you can obviously hold down the fort for the businesses and all the social media ads that come in and the travel. I'm going to shut my phone off completely. I'm just not even turning it on. I don't even want to know. And I'm like, are you okay with that? And he's like, yeah, honey, go and, enjoy each other. I don't think I've turned my phone off even for a day since I got married. I turned my phone off the day I got married. That was it. That was 15 years ago or something. And I was like, oh my gosh, the stress level is that's the vacation right there. Turn the phone off.
I know. I know. We talk about this all the time. I think the biggest challenge that we have right now is in some ways you're living in paradise with all these options, but you can't do all the things that you kind of would have normally done if you came here to vacation in Florida because we're living here. It's like, it's real life here. It's not the beach.
Right. Well, and I always say, listen, man, we're workers, we're not privileged. We work for everything and we give more than we get. But it's nice to know that the beach is there. Even if I can't get there, I like to know it's close.
Yeah. Can you dispel a myth for me, please?
Maybe.
Do Floridians get discounts on touristy things in Florida?
They do have
a wide variety.
I think people, like anything else, they just they inflate everything. They do have Florida discounts, but they're not huge, generally speaking. But they do. Yes, resident discounts do exist for sure. Well, they have them for Orlando, for most of the parks. If you look at the right times, they'll have usually they'll have once or twice a year, they'll have deals for Florida residents to buy tickets to the parks. But again, that's when they're not busy. So it's not going to be at spring break. It's not going to be at holiday time. It's not going to be when you want to go unless I really feel like you do best to shuffle your schedules around when you're vacationing, especially with families, just to dip into their school, take the days off when they're not off, because the amount of money you'll save and time, because
the memories you'll make,
yes,
those things that the kids will remember forever will go past that class.
There's so much more. Yeah. And then, you're not because if you're going when the kids are off, then all the kids are off and everyone's doing the same thing. So the ships and the resorts are completely packed. So you're getting less out of it because there is just, they're filling it to the brim.
Right.
You're in line more, no matter what great ship you're on, unless you're doing some crazy exclusive, which you would never do with kids. Doesn't make sense. Disney, by the way, I will speak to that really real quick because I know we have to wrap up soon. But Disney cruises, I think most people that love Disney, if you're a Disney fanatic, and I know they're out there, and God bless them. God bless them. I mean, it's all good. If you love Disney, that's I think if it brings you that much joy,
do it.
Then you should do it. But if it's not like something you're really obsessive about, you can get so much of the same. I mean, Disney cruises is like 4 times the price.
That's what I hear.
It is just.
Is it that much
No,
value,
it can't be. The only thing, I mean, they have adult sections. They really do their best to try to separate, but all of them do. All of them have kids clubs now. They're all included. You get babysitters. You can pay.
We tried that. We went for an hour. The kids didn't want it and we felt guilty. So we're like, no.
The kids didn't like the kids club?
No, they wanted to be with us and we wanted to be with them. The only reason and the only reason we actually did it is we were like, let's take a mini break and go gamble.
Yeah, well, you should do that. No, you should insist the kids stay at the kids
they
club
were crying. It wasn't even my kids, actually. It was the people we were with. But look, first of all, you got me super excited about going to travel, and I'm stoked about it. The other thing is you're an amazing guest and a super cool human, and I hope to be able to talk to you again.
Yeah, it was so fun to get to know you. I mean, I feel like there's so many crossover points in our lives.
I think we keep, like, I can keep going on tangents the entire time, but if people wanted to get a hold of you, how would they find you?
So I am the solo travel expert on all of the social platforms. Of course, with travel, if you go to travelfun.biz, we can help you out there. And then my podcast is Cruise Director with Shelby Frenette.
Yeah, there's some really cool, funny stories about that. Some of them you shouldn't be listening to when you're with the kiddies in the car.
Yeah. They're a little adult.
But you're amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
It was an honor.